And we got Aimee and Menee on our team, as well as our customers Bet365, Coinbase, Leidos, and Palo networks. So please give them a warm round of applause.
All right, welcome. All right, I'm excited to talk to this group of individuals about AI adoption within engineering teams, both today, a little bit of the journey you've been on, in the future. As we get into the conversation, would love for you to kind of go down the line, introduce yourself, kind of name, role, company, and we can go and get started.
Hello, my name is Alan Reed, and I'm the head of innovation at Bet365. For anybody who doesn't know who Bet365 are, we're the largest sportsbook and online casino in the world. We have a real-time product, which is literally, as you place a wager on a game, we will actually offer you betting opportunities, we offer different prices as the game's taking place, often against a video stream. High availability, low latency, that's really where we're coming from. We are in a highly, highly, highly regulated world. That's something quite to consider as well.
Hello everybody, my name is Linger. I am the AI software architect for Leidos. And Leidos is a federal systems integrator, IT services provider, and solutions provider.
Hello, my name is Roderick Randolph. I am a principal engineer at Coinbase. My primary focus is on developer experience, bringing tools and solutions that help create a delightful experience for our engineers. For those who may not know Coinbase, Coinbase is a crypto platform. We are the largest in the US. We're US based. We have well over 100 million users, tens of billions in assets on the platform, heavily regulated, and yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Marc, Benoit. I lead innovation for the Office of the Chief Product Officer of Palo Networks, mega cybersecurity company. I didn't prepare a commercial for that.
All right, I heard innovation in two of the panelists' teams and titles, which is actually a good starting point. So we're talking about AI adoption, but obviously to get to the point of adoption, you've got to have the strategy around that. And I think what's really interesting about all four of your companies is, I would say you were all very early adopters in kind of embracing AI, kind of forming company-wide strategies around that. And while that looks different, I think one of the things that we're hearing very commonly across every industry is this idea of an AI steering committee in kind of companies forming strategies. And I know, Marc, this was something for Palo Alto, and would love to hear a little bit about how Palo Alto adopted their AI strategy.
Sure, yeah, it was an interesting journey, the beginning of which was both private and public. Our CEO made no qualms about wanting us to be a visionary and market leader in the space of AI, especially in deference to cybersecurity, and he was very loud about that internally and externally. He backed it with investment. So most companies have what I would call a one and done, pique your curiosity about AI. They'll call somewhat of a summit, aggregate people at a corporate HQ, talk about it for a day. Everybody goes off in a million different directions and kind of loses focus on it and think they're doing a good job. In our case, we had about 300 senior architects, engineers, machine learning specialists, all come together monthly, and we did that for over a year. We would bring in external industry experts and basically review the state of AI, what the company was doing, and how it applied across both business as well as our customers' franchises.
And I know, Bet365 has a somewhat similar approach. You were talking about innovation spaces. Can you share a little bit about that and how that has helped form kind of your own company strategy?
Yeah, sure. I think one of the things we were looking at for innovation was our development pool is around about 2,000 strong, so we have a lot of developers out there. And the first thing we realized is with that many developers and ChatGPT out in the world, you can't prohibit its use. We live in remote working, we live in working from home. it's transformative technology. People are going to use these things. So we very quickly understood we need a human-first approach to what we're trying to do. So we've got to get organised. So we work very closely with our InfoSec teams. They're actually embedded with us. So we find that at Bet365 we work with very short models and very short structures. So you're normally one or two people away from the decision maker, and that's a conscious decision that we have. So we always knew with regard to steering, we probably wouldn't need that many people to make the decisions, but what we need to do is very, very, very tightly coupled. So in innovation, we will have people from regulatory who are only one phone call away. We have people from InfoSec who literally work with us. They're part of our decision-making process. It saves avoiding the long no. We were very quickly understood that with a human-first approach, we wanted to democratize AI and give it back to the community itself, which is how we set up the way we did. The first thing we did, we gave people access to LLMs. People are out there saying, I want to use ChatGPT, I want to use Claude, I want to use whatever the LLM of the month is. I believe this week it's going to be Google. Everybody's really interested in that. Code Llama 70B, that's a big one. People are starting to, only a week old, and everyone's looking for access to it. So what we did is we democratized the whole thing. So we put a security suite in front of just the access itself to the LLMs, and we said to people, this is it, see it yourself. And then the steering committee can then sit back and say, well, we've got this human-first approach, we can now start to see what people are using this for. And most people, to be honest, the first thing they used for was, how do you write an Excel macro? It was pretty straightforward, some of the things they were asking. Really simple, can you change the tone of a Word document? Or can you use content? What we could do with those spaces? And that led back into the steering committee to say, well, how do we really want to see this in a wider space? But the very first thing we did was we need to democratize and educate our entire workforce.
And you talked about security, as you were introducing yourself, obviously highly regulated, security is a top concern in a very unique way, I would say, for each of your companies. Rob, Leidos, government, obviously there's some very natural security concerns. As you thought about kind of the policy side of it and thinking about the data security side, how did Leidos formulate kind of your strategy with the security lens?
That's a great question. And actually, to talk about the security lens, we also have to talk about sort of the side of trust. And Leidos, for a long time, we've had a framework that we call Trusted AI. And it is what we use to help customers understand and formulate their own processes, procedures, and policies to enable the trusted use of AI and machine learning technologies. So we start with that as the cornerstone because when you're talking about the security, you're also talking about, obviously, the data. So the first thing that we have to look at is, where does your data currently live? What are the security levels of your data? And where are you sending your data in order to consume, an LLM? And, the same thing holds true for people using just ChatGPT for business processes. Help me write this email, make me sound less angry in this email, those sort of things that we've all used it for. It holds true as well for your code. So we always were looking, and when we were doing our evaluations of products, we were looking for a solution that would give us the flexibility to meet our customers where they're at in a space where they're comfortable and where they would be comfortable sending the data. And that flexibility of LLM usage was one of the primary drivers that had us begin working with Sourcegraph.
I think actually, Roderick, a very similar lens to that, an extension, the use case upon which Cody kind of came in at Coinbase is very interesting. Do you want to share about that?
Yeah, so similar, we have, we pride ourselves as being the most trusted crypto platform in the world. And so, we try to think about customer protection, security, and kind of regulation compliance in general. But we also want to be on the forefront of technology, and so AI has been part of our DNA since the company's inception. And so it was really a question around how can we leverage this technology, but while still being secure and thinking about data protection. So our journey started probably a little bit over a year ago. We actually started with GitHub Copilot, but we segmented and said, hey, we assessed the risk of, leveraging something like Copilot, and identified, a number of risks, how we could mitigate them. And one of the first steps that we took was we would start with low-risk projects or repositories where the risk of something happening is very minimal. We did that to do assessment around, hey, does these AI assistant tools produce insecure code? So we had pilot users try it out. We had InfoSec app security actually create a quick workflow to monitor PRs and the changes that are happening. And it basically the result was these tools don't generate more insecure code than humans do. But then we wanted to close that gap. We had other higher risk repositories that we wanted to enable developers to use code assistance against, and so that started the conversation with Sourcegraph around, hey, we want to protect our data. We're in AWS, we're within a private VPC. What can we do to enable this? We're also already using the self-hosted version of Sourcegraph within our environment, and so they quickly came up with a solution that hooked us up to AWS Bedrock and their LLMs. So that gave us confidence that we could expand usage across all of Coinbase developers. So today we have essentially every developer leveraging an AI code assistant tool with really high engagement.
Thanks for sharing that. So we've talked about kind of the strategy, right, and the security lens upon which, kind of moving forward with AI. How do you know if it's working? We're really early on in the bleeding edge of this, and a lot of companies, and we're trying to think about how to measure this and how to understand if it's having the intended effect. From both a quantitative and qualitative side, interested in hearing about how how you're thinking about if these investments are actually having the expected outcomes. Marc, start with you.
Sure, yeah, that's a fun one. Metrics are every developer's lifeblood. We had recently undertaken a multi-year effort to refactor our software supply chain, and it wasn't fun. Part of that involved moving off of public SaaS into our own self-hosted model, tightening our data boundaries and reducing the aggregate number of tools across all of the different layers of development. When we started looking at developer productivity on a group-by-group basis across various BUs, they were so wildly divergent that it's taken us a little bit of time to wrangle that. But for us, key metrics for developer productivity kind of across the board are increasing feature velocity, really increasing code quality, and then ultimately reducing customer-found defects. And across those three kind of key pillars, we've got a series of metrics that we track across the developer engagement. And that allows us to really see the efficacy of various aspects of implementing AI and developer productivity.
Yeah, so for us, we have our list of metrics that we use just in general around developer productivity, number of PRs, and so forth. And during the early stages when we started adoption, we had I mentioned we had the pilot going on, and we did see some correlation with PRs getting, those who were using AI assistant tools versus those who weren't. The PRs are getting merged faster. We saw uptick in code coverage around unit tests and so forth. So all those are great signs. I think the big thing for us is it when you use a tool. And as developers, they at one point we lost developers lost access to the AI code assistant tools, and immediately everyone started screaming, yelling, "Hey, I need this! I can't write unit tests without it." And so clearly.
He did that when he was justifying the purchase.
Exactly. So clearly that developers feel that the productivity boost, and I think any CEO who's looking at that and assessing, should we have this tool in our environment or not, it's pretty clear that it's pretty productive for developers.
Yeah, and then I'd echo everything on that side. that we've already talked about, except for I wasn't so brutal as to turn off access. It's cold-blooded, but I like that. Another item that we like to track outside of your standard metrics is we try to measure what does your week look like across different levels of developers. You know, how much time are you spending doing different types of tasks that fit into the software development lifecycle? And what we have found is that our developers are spending more time doing higher value tasks. And in addition to that, it sort of ties into sentiment, right? Like, how do you feel using these tools? What value do you feel as a developer it's bringing? And some of the things that we see coming out of that is, you know, when people are under tight deadlines and they have things that they need to get done, they're going to put in a lot of extra hours to make sure that the mission is accomplished. And under some of these circumstances, we ask for sort of a before and after view. You know, what does your week look like? And not only are we seeing more time spent on higher value tasks, but you can also see where somebody used to be working 54 hours a week, you know, to try to get a big project across the line, and they can cut that down to 50 hours a week, right? But they're still spending more time in code, and they're spending more time writing unit tests and doing things that are valuable to the project. But at the end of the day, they also get 4 extra hours to spend with the family, right? And that's a huge human part that I think is really important when you're talking about introducing these type of tools into developers' workflows.
That's a really great answer. I think we came to something quite similar from our findings, where as a consequence of the qualitative versus quantitative, we looked at it and said, well, they're not measurables. Yeah. What it doesn't really take into effect is what type of code they're looking at. So not all code is the same code, as we all know. If somebody's working on a user platform, then really you're very, very interested in data security, code security. You're interested in your biggest problems are generally transactional based, synchronous load, and concurrency control. If you're working on a client base, certainly just something like Bet365, performance, that's all you're interested in. It's got to be fast. Everything's asynchronous, and all you have here is race condition. Okay, so we tried to look at it as, could we use a generic tool that could give us a measure of different groups of people, different stages in their careers, different abilities, and working on our code base that was made up of not only different technologies, but it was also a different mindset, really, of different teams when you're actually writing that code, because you're looking at it from a slightly different paradigm. And then what we tried to do is we said, well, if you think of using a tool like a Copilot think of it as all of the things you do prior to starting your task, and then think of it as all the things you would do after you finish your task to assert whether it was done well. And that definition of done well is completely subjective. Yeah, that's down to the individual. Again, a human first thing. I think we've all touched on that in the thing. There's a feel to this. And we started to qualify it. Of saying, and again, it's this qualitative time that you're looking for and working on high value tasks. If you can take the toil out of something, then that becomes measurable. And what becomes very difficult to actually tangibly measure, but it's certainly there, is people's motivation, people's enthusiasm, and people's sense of purpose. And I think that because when we were using the co-pilots, it was focusing on those areas that, generally speaking, you don't really want to do. And it's looking in those spaces of going, this is a prep task, this isn't actually my job. I like writing business functionality, or I like writing something else that really motivates me and feel like I'm making a difference. And again, it's this, I don't like writing unit tests, I don't really want to check anything. But if you've got something that says, it's okay, you know, I got this, that really gives that sense of purpose and community. And again, I'll come back to this new normal of hybrid working, remote working. A lot of the things that we've missed by the office space is just turn around to somebody else and say, does this look okay? And I think that, again, what we found was people where, if you think when you're in the office, you do your collaborative work, and when you're at home, you tend to do the task-based work. And what we'll find is when more people are using the Copilot and using coding, they will find that they would get into those days at home through them more and more and more, because they would find that was when they were doing their task-based stuff. So that's a really important message that we got back from this.
It's interesting to hear the variety of answers and kind of perspectives on this as we kind of wrap up here and think about, you know, what lies ahead in 2024 and beyond. There are certainly so many places, you know, and opportunities that you're seeing for AI to positively affect the developer workflow engineering teams. I would say, like, what's the one thing that from each of you that you think your company is really looking forward in 2024 and beyond for AI really impacting?
So for us, it's definitely that productivity boost. Everyone's got a huge backlog of tech debt for things that just keeps piling up, and really no appreciable way in the craziness of the workloads that just keep tacking on to get there. So this enables us to get to a feature velocity point with a much higher level of quality. And I think ultimately that's what's going to make everybody's life a lot better, because you're not, running around doing the grind to get 100% unit test coverage. The tighter that we get this integrated fully into CI flows, the more automated we can make the things that don't need human intervention, which ultimately leads us to much more productive work and higher end work that we want, thought leadership work that we want our engineers working on.
Yeah, I mean, just to double down on that, like we have a concept called Fix It Week. We roll out every couple of quarters, and basically we leverage that as a theme for, hey, developers, how can we level up our documentation with AI? How can we, increase code coverage? How can we fix those broken windows and technical that we've kind of built over time? So we're looking forward to do more of those. We also have hackathons. The innovations really within the engineering folks to come up with new ideas on how we can leverage this technology. So we're really looking forward to that this year.
Yeah, for Leidos, 2024 is really about scaling. We're scaling very rapidly the internal usage of Sourcegraph and coding, but we are also scaling this out to our customers, which is a unique challenge because we have a very wide spectrum of customers and where they are on their overall technology journey. Just like with anybody who's come from a pure data science background, a lot of it's about storytelling. You have to be able to communicate to customers those high-value, low-risk use cases that you are able to tackle with tools like Sourcegraph and Cody, such as documenting your code, right? Getting that code understanding rapidly, writing unit tests. Those sort of things are very high value, not only for us internally, but for our customers for the government space. So we're going to be pushing really hard this year on the scaling aspect of the usage and proliferation of Sourcegraph and Cody.
I think for us it's consistency. So one of the big things that everyone's got tech debt, right? We're always concerned that how do you modernize code, how do you change platforms, how do you move into these new areas? The biggest fear that you get is that you're about to say the word, your stronger people tend to move up in one direction and then everybody sort of may go off in different directions. And I think what's really important to us is that using these type of tools in the co-piloting spaces, that you find consistency. And sometimes we've got huge teams. There's the people in different countries, people don't see each other, but you can actually bring that consistency back and say, well, look, this is how we can get out of some of the situation we've been historically.
Awesome. Exciting. I want to thank Marc, Roderick, Rob, and Alan for joining the panel discussion. Thank you all.